Yes, ma'am.
I'm a librarian too, and I think that one of the things that this does is it gives our school districts an excuse to cut libraries, because now there's only one per district.
Yes.
The unit, and my district was 13,000. We used to have 17 libraries from 20 schools. We had 9 when I left last year, and they're cutting to 3 this year. And we were all in charge of computer labs, and we were in charge of the instruction, and we kept saying we're teachers, we're ready to instruct. All the teachers can take care of that, and they come in and they Google the search, and the first thing on Google, that's what the kids use. And I worked on a website, and I had all these, I bought database research things for the kids. They wouldn't look at that because Google's so fast, and it's not effective. I mean, because the kids don't have that built in.
Someone over here and then you. I definitely appreciate that, but as I said, this is a start. And if you look at the old funding model, the old funding model didn't have librarians at all in it. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? The old funding model didn't have librarians in it at all.
That's true.
Well, there was one per district, but there was
No, but the funding model from the state did not have librarians in it at all.
But they're
And so districts were funding that by themselves. This is now providing districts with resources from the state to no, I mean, no, I get you. I understand what you're saying on that, but I guess what I'm saying to you is that this is a start.
Well,
And that's what I said earlier. This is we should look at the evidence-based model as an evolving process that we should be trying to make better. And what we have really tried to focus on in the administration is that what we have tried to do is establish a footprint, to establish a foundation to get us started in this process. And again, I think, and this has been an ongoing process where people are looking at the evidence-based model and then saying, well, you don't do X, you don't do Y, you don't do Z. And I say, but look at what the old funding model did and compare this model to the old funding model. Yes, ma'am.
I tutor GED students, and you talked earlier about the 30% now who don't graduate. Where does the funding come from picking up after they've tried to go through the common schools and now want to come back? Especially those, a lot of times people don't finish high school because of juvenile activities that put them into institutions. Does the funding go with them along with all the services through this maze of juvie detention? Does it go for the little girl who gets pregnant and is taken to another school? Do all these services go with the child as they move around and help them follow up their graduation?
What you're asking is really different components of the school funding system, not necessarily the funding model to determine adequacy. The short answer to your question is that...
But getting a high school diploma isn't adequacy?
No, it is. What you asked several different questions.
Right, I did. I'm sorry.
You asked questions about open enrollment. You asked questions about what type of intervention support services. And then your question about the GED that you started out with is really an adult education question. And so what I was trying to do was trying to answer all of the questions that you asked. And the short answer is that the model does try to catch those kids before they get to that point of needing a GED by providing a lot of intervention services during the K-12 experience. And so what you are seeing with this model is a greater emphasis of not allowing kids to get to the point where they need to get a GED. Because what our central premise is that every child can learn. It's our duty to tap into what learning style they have, what obstacles that they have to overcome. It's our obligation to figure that out when they're in kindergarten, first grade, and second grade, so that they can stay on pace and progress academically and not have to get a GED on the tail end of it. But in that transition period, yeah, we will need GED services, and GED services is a whole separate funding question from the evidence-based model, because the evidence-based model is focused on K-12, and the GED is an adult ed funding issue that's done through adult education funding.
It's a different system.
It's a different
In
system.
fact, it's a very controversial system right now because it's been underfunded.
And so if
Yes.
also going into the juvie system,
Yeah,
during high school, same thing,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
different, oh.
Go ahead.
No, you.
No, finish your questions.
Well, if they get into the juvenile detention facility while they're still in high school, let's say 8th or 9th grade, do all these services and the support go with them?
No, because again, the systems, when a kid is in juvenile, I used to work in the juvenile detention center here in Franklin County. When a child is in juvenile detention facility, the juvenile detention has the responsibility to educate that child. So they are providing the services to educate that child through the county system, through the county juvenile court system. And so they will, and so, you know, some will contract with the school districts to provide teachers and services. Some will provide those services themselves within the county system itself. Like at Franklin County, they actually had a teacher that they hired who would come in and teach the kids during the school, during the day.
Thank you.
So again, it just differs. Again, this model is focused on school districts in the K-12 system. And what you're bringing up are different systems within the education world. But they're good questions, though. Good questions. Yes, ma'am, and then you and the sweater, with both are in purple and black sweater. So, okay, so these will be the last three questions. This gentle lady here, and then this gentle lady, and then this gentle lady. That'll be the last three questions. We're out of time.
A little different start to the, or offshoot. In his State of the State speech, Governor Strickland spoke about elongating the school year, which is, to me, very sensible because we're no longer that agrarian society that leave the kids at home for the farm. But what kinds of things are being looked at for funding, for the extra to pay for teachers, for the physical plant, which if we're going to be in even warmer weather, for air conditioning? What kinds of things are being looked at to fund those extra days, which are very important?
Sure. Real quickly, when we introduced the bill for operations and maintenance, we had a component on that to address the additional days for operations and maintenance, which is the upkeep of the school districts. And then when it comes to the teachers and whatnot, they didn't really like the answer that we gave on this. But when you look at the educational challenge factor being applied to teacher salaries, most districts in the state were getting way more than what they were already paying, you know, for their teachers in their districts. When they, like, give you a quick example. I was talking to a school treasurer about their own particular district, and their average teacher salary was about $50,000. With the education challenge factor and some of the other components provided through the evidence-based model for this particular school district, they were going to be receiving on average $70,000 from the state for teachers.